What is up guys, Kayn here. So you want to play dungeon? There is quite a lot to cover, so I will have to pretty much split some topics all in this one video. That will more or less be formation, what units they can perhaps add to the formation, weapons and so on. This is only my second formation which I will be trying to focus myself, so it will never be one of the strongest formations that I would be able to place against somebody, mainly because of the diamond requirement that we will have. But more on that later. Basically, the current dungeon formation should look something like this. However, this formation is just one of the two that would use a vast majority of units and still get away with it. The other one being Roland, and why is that is mainly because of the Dragon Meteor specialty and ultimate. For many other heroes, it's plainly just triggering some overpowered skill or skills that can one-shot units and so on. In terms of dungeon, currently they're not able to reliably one-shot units from full HP, so most of the time they are placed against something like Judicators, and most of the Dragon Meteor's explosive damage early in the match is all negated. Now, it may be different in some servers as enemies may not have adjudicators, or if they would have, they would be too weak. So one-shots can happen, but majority of the time they won't. The explosive power all belongs to Green Dragon, Red Dragon, and also Evil Sorceress in the formation. But it all depends on their stars and their upgrades. For example, Green Dragon 1 star and Green Dragon 5 star would have so much difference in your formation that it wouldn't even be funny. Same for Red Dragon from 3 to 6 star. Same for Evil Sorceress 3 to 5 star compared to 6 star with her domain. And keep in mind, these are just some damage dealers. You also have Black Dragon, which is another SSR and very important in the formation as well. This formation in general has and will have a lot of, phases. They have already gone through quite a few and will go through quite a few more. That being said, the core of your formation right now is Black Dragon, Red Dragon, Manticore, and Evil Sorceress. And the rest, I feel like they're all situational depending on what type of formation you want to do and for where. Now many of you may have different opinions and that's perfectly understandable, but I am talking about the core of the formation. So for example, the situational units can be Green Dragon added onto here and so on, which for most can seem like it is a must. So Red Dragon, Black Dragon, Evil Sorceress and Manticore will pretty much always be a must in this composition. Manticore will be used for probably most of the time. There, however, may be some windows where something else in the shape of SSR or UR may replace him, but eventually he will make it back to the Dragon Meteor's composition either way, whether in his current form or his class changed tank form. So these 4 units out of the way, moving towards the situational ones, first of which is Green Dragon. Now, quite a few people use it in a gem formation, especially if they made them 6 stars and 5 stars awaken. It is a huge powerhouse of a DPS unit at the current moment, but anything below that it becomes quite weak, or is easily dodgeable. I cannot really find the word for it. Basically, it is just a coin flip. Whether or not you will place Green Dragon in a line of enemies will depend if you do any damage. Unlike Red Dragon, who can move his line damage to another line very easily and damage the enemy even with his basic attacks. Comparing most of the damage done by Green Dragon, which are mainly just from his abilities, which depending how long the battle lasts and whether the Green Dragon is again in a particular line of enemies, whether he will do damage. If Green Dragon is placed in a line where there are no enemies, he's not going to do high amounts of damage. Too much chance based, that is why it's situational. Now if you were on the offense, let's say you are the attacker, then yeah, perhaps this unit could be one of the better ones for you. Now Dungeon has 2 more SR plus units that I haven't added before, Medusa and Beholder. Thing is, Beholder is good and can still be one of the top picks for Dragon Meteor and multiple other formations, but again, depending on whether or not you face specific enemies, that will deny your early burst in some way. Beholder just dies if anything sneezes, so the only thing it just provides is the mana reduction at the beginning, which I don't know if it will keep its value as the time goes by. Medusa, I received varied information, but the last bit that I got actually proved some pretty decent synergy with Evil Sorceress. She can easily poison almost the entire enemy field, and if the enemy hero casts a spell, Evil Sorceress Spellbreaker will proc and will stun all enemy units that have the poison for 4 seconds. Now some units can dodge this, or some units may not be poisoned and so on, but this does in fact seem like a pretty overpowered weapon skill to have at 0 stars. 50% chance to inflict poison on a random enemy unit. Essentially, when I first made this video, I had a whole different opinion about Medusa, but another person helped me and showed me some replays that entirely changed my mind, since I didn't actually know how well she performed at the current stage in the game. But she can permanently stun lock quite a few units for like 4 to 8 seconds or even longer, depending how much poison goes around. I am unsure if this was changed in global in any way, or there will be something that will entirely dispel the regular stun with ease, since Medusa isn't used at all, like ever in the Chinese servers. After these, there are a lot of situational units like stronghold units in terms of behemoth and troll. There are others like Inferno and Castle. And as far as I know from the formations I have checked in the Chinese long time ago, pretty much few months from now, people will be using Dungeon and Inferno in their Dragon Meteors. But about half a year later, most if not all those Dragon Meteors transitioned to Dungeon and Castle. However, even out of that, they switched away because Dungeon received their own Judicator in the form of Fawn. By Castle, I mean Paladin, Judicator, and Angel, and by Inferno, I mean Venom Spawn, Abyss Lord, and Devil. Inferno because they have one of the best burst damages, and Devil provides entire field burn every now and then, increasing all dungeon units' damage by 20% if they are under Dragon Meteor. And also they have one of the best tanks in the game, which if I'm not mistaken, buffs unit damage, damage reduction, and penetration in his domain. So even that buffs dungeon units as well. Whereas the castle route, it's more defensive slash sustain build, reducing early burst damage, healing, revival, and immunities, and more or less has some buffs. I think Castle is more of the defensive type route, whereas the Inferno is just full-blown offensive type route. There are more units and even more dungeon units like Harpy, but she's 9x and half of the time she can be good, but the other half of the time she can get instantly deleted, so units like that are sort of situational, as I said. Moving to weapons now. SSR weapons are required to be activated and upgraded. That is a given and pretty much doesn't even need to be commented. If you play Dungeon, you will need Red Dragon and Black Dragon weapons focused, but depending what other units you will choose, this formation can get very expensive. That will be explained further. But notice one weapon which seems to be quite strong, and that weapon is on Minotaur. You can upgrade this weapon for free, gather from playing the events. And as I noticed in his weapon, him being a tank, he can reduce 40% damage reduction of the enemy. The first 20% is in a small area of effect, and the 6th star skill reduces the damage reduction of the poison targets. So that can be used as a synergy with Medusa as well. And dungeon units have a variety of units that can do the poison, same as Medusa who can almost poison the entire field. But additionally, he can also increase the unit damage of friendly units. This is more or less one of the better weapons that I have yet to see on SRs, given that I haven't checked about half of them. But giving friendly units 20% unit damage is very strong, on top of removing 20 and 20 damage reductions. It is basically almost the same as adding 20% unit damage to those units who are hitting those. SR plus weapons, both Manticore and Medusa are pretty strong. Manticore becomes buffer slash debuffer and a backline DPS. The DPS part is what he lacked a while ago, since he was just used for the first two things most of the time. Medusa, if you have Evil Sorceress, her 0-star just activated weapon will provide nearly permanent stun lock on the enemy if they do not have immunity or it does not get dispelled. And most of the rest of the buffs on the weapon are just damage based. What worries me is that this may be very temporary and something else may be coming and will counter this all. When I checked, I haven't really seen any Medusa used like ever, nor in Clash of Gods formations, nor in Dragon Mutaires, nor in the Arena formations in the Chinese servers. But it could be because she gets one-shotted before she does anything, or it could be because there will be units who will easily dispel these and provide more stun immunities. At least that is just my opinion. If I would go for it, I would definitely just 0-star Awaken and reap the current rewards that she's able to provide you, along with Evil Sorceress, and see how well she performs as the time goes by. Emblems, well, Path of Assassin emblems all across the board. Those who won't use Path of Assassin will be using Everlasting, and tanks usually use Successor's legal principles, with Black Dragon using Dragon King's Breath. Other than that, it's pretty basic. This formation is also pretty expensive because most of the damage dealers will need the Assassin emblems. Awakenings I have not yet done for the Black Dragon, as I am mainly focusing on Inferno for now. Most of the Black Dragon awakenings are either faster buffs but less, or slower buffs but more, and quite a few will need to be tested by you, whichever works on the time your server is up. But weaker Black Dragons will require the first skill on the right side for you to stack up quicker, so he can tank better and faster, while the left is better for those players who have the Black Dragon decked out completely, so it can even be more tanky as the fight goes by. Remember, weak Black Dragons will just die instantly, so you cannot risk slow stacking. Manticore also depends on who you fight and what you will want to do. Personally, I chose the route of debuffing the tanks and providing debuffs on the enemy, also reliably silencing the enemy 15 seconds into the match. Others would be damaging the backline and also buffing your own units. So I can say pretty much that's a pretty strong unit and has a pretty huge variety at what it can do. Can be a DPS now or a debuffer. Beholder, as a situational for Dragon Mutaire, you kind of needed 6-star and 3-star Awaken. One of the best mana reductions in the game, but dies very easily. Minotaur, I chose the tanky healing route. Not too much about it, just a tank with some buffs and debuffs on the enemy and some healing. For Medusa's Awakening, the first choice I would choose would be the ones which stun the surrounding enemies. The second choice should be which one you value more, receiving a little less damage or reducing the damage reduction of the enemy. Now I am not sure on whom this skill lands and how often, so honestly I would just go for the damage reduction removal, since the faster the tanks die, the faster you get to the enemy backline, and even if this hits backline, you have a lot of area damage going towards the backline, so this buff still works good even in the backline. And the last one is a choice for what you need, either damage or survivability, and my own choice if I had her would be survivability, because she can still die from a lot of AoEs or spell damage, so having her survive longer and stunlock the enemy field will do a lot more than just some damage increase. The future of this formation, basically, it is very hard to predict, because for us, HP percent damage is broken, and it's not broken in the Chinese servers. Most of that can be because the Path of Assassin emblem increasing both crit and penetration, and could perhaps have some hidden buffs. However, Dungeon had 3 UR units. Evil Sorceress and Faceless are both charging units, with Faceless having some strong burst. Pawn is the second champion unit of Dungeon, which is similar to the Judicator, buffs, debuffs, and immunity for everyone, and even works for the Infernos as well. And the third champion, which either was released today or a couple of days prior, called the Cave Hydra, which is a tank, but we don't have much information on it right now. From the first glance, it looks to be a defensive unit who negates damage beyond HP percent damage in one hit, and also heals itself. This faction also has a second generation faction leader called Alamar, but that also I am not able to provide any replays yet since I didn't see any of his battles. Sometime in the future I will though. All that aside, I can see Dragon Meteor is pretty strong, but it is also one of the more costly formations in the game. Quite a few others you can upgrade for a lot less and have a similar or stronger effect. Many of you may not agree, but let's narrow down the cost. Dragon Meteor's formation for the future will be 2 SSRs and 3 URs, as I'm not counting the newest one, which is like 2 years away, would round about to 320,000 diamonds for the 2 SSRs being 6-star and 5-star Awaken, and 300,000 for the 3 URs to be 6 stars. So the total is about 620,000 diamonds, and yes, that does seem quite low. I know for a fact that the Black Dragon has a second awakening, so it turns out to be close to about 760,000 diamonds. But this is 5 units by the way. Remember when I said before they use Inferno and Castle units? Yes, those units they do use are all SSR and UR, with sometimes having Clash Change Manticore, which is a tank. So depending which focus you do or which units you pick up and in what particular time you are on, the formation will keep rising in that diamond value and can easily cost more than 1 million diamonds just to make it kind of competitive. Keep in mind Fawn is the 3rd UR of the dungeon, so Judicator may be used as a substitute or something that may not get your formation killed rather quickly, which is what I meant by this faction having a lot of phases. And I do mean a lot. They're strong, then they fall down, then they're strong, then they fall down again. And then they need to keep adding different units to keep the formation strong. And those units can cost quite a bit of diamonds or even real life money. So in the list I will be making in the future, I will call this formation more or less from 760 diamonds to about 1.2 million diamonds as rough numbers. If you will add the Holy Trinity, which is Judicator, Angel, and Paladin, this will actually be more. And keep in mind guys, weapon materials are not added to the cost here. This formation will have like 3 or 4 SSRs most of the time, and they will sort of require the weapons to be upgraded. So yes, very expensive. And guys, I am not saying you should avoid this formation or stop playing or any of the sort. I try to more or less provide some little information that you can think about the future and perhaps prepare for what is coming. Anyways guys, that's pretty much it for this video. I had to redo it because I needed to provide some crucial information that I didn't have before. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there.